Hey there, and welcome to this week's From the Vault episode from the Magdalen House podcast. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Dallas, Texas, and known affectionately by many as Maggies. Every first and third Wednesday, we bring you a new release. In our From the Vault episodes, we share past podcast releases from our 3 different podcast series, RecoverED, Recovered Interviews with Alcoholics, and Hope for the Family. Our podcasts aim to connect, inspire, and educate alcoholics, loved ones, and the community to the Magdalen House and the services we offer. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for listening.
So we're on 4 through 9. We've spent most of our time the past 2 Saturdays on 4 through 7. And we're going to spend a little more time on 4 through 7 today. And God willing, get into 8 and 9. But I want to go a little bit deeper. I was talking with sponsees this week, and it kind of gave me this. I've always been so interested in the layout of this book. All the steps are like, to some extent general, but step 4 breaks it down into very specific, like, let me back up. Again, step 1, I'm powerless. So 2 through 12 is me learning how to access a power. Different from step 1 is I'm drunk, and 2 through 12 is I'm learning how to get sober. That's a different set of steps. That's a different room altogether. This is step 1, I can't stop myself from drinking. I'm powerless. No matter how hard I try, I cannot stop myself. Steps 2 through 12 are accessing something that will do it for me. And again and again and again, what's so crucial about that is the only thing blocking me from 2 through 12, the only thing blocking me from that power I'm so desperately in need of, the only thing blocking me from my solution is me trying to stop myself from drinking. Virtuously, even. Me trying to figure out a way to stop myself from drinking is the thing blocking me from the power that will do it for me. It's like if my car runs out of gas, the only thing blocking me from walking to the gas station is me still trying to start it. And so many of us have for so long been diagnosed with a drinking problem and told the solution was to stop drinking, that this is a really, really, really hard to grasp idea that in AA, none of us are working to not drink. We're working to access a power that does the not drinking for us. It's such a relief. It's such a relief. But it's a hard relief to grasp. So the book talks about, we use this analogy a lot. The book talks about in doing these steps, in accessing this power, we are rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence of which we had never even dreamed. Some of us find ourselves feel, the phrase pink cloud. Some of us very early on feel kind of like we've already achieved that. Like it's kind of like the second we surrender, we're rocketed. Some of us, it doesn't happen immediately. But again, what these steps are teaching me how to do is they're teaching, some people don't like this word, so please forgive me, I'll find some synonyms. But the second I stop playing God, God is, and I'm on a rocket. So these are 12 steps that teach me how to stop playing God so that God can be and I can be on the rocket. For some of us, 4 through 9 or 2 through 12 help me find my way onto the rocket. And for some of us, 2 through 12, 4 through 9 help me stay on the rocket if I'm in that pink cloud. Again, the only thing that throws me off the rocket is me needing to play God. This whole program is just going from self-reliance, playing God, to God reliance. Self-reliance to God reliance, not bad to good, or even drunk to sober. It's from self-reliance to God reliance, also known as from being in bondage to being free. One of the things that's also worth noting is in the 3rd step in 60 to 63, which I think I made a pitch for last week. 60 to 63 talk about help to better diagnose the bondage that I'm in. And a lot of us are surprised to find out We are not in the bondage of alcohol. We're in the bondage of self. And up until now, alcohol has been like medicine that's provided temporary relief from the bondage of self, from the bondage, not just of playing God, but the bondage of the delusion that I need to play God. The book refers to the delusion that will wrest satisfaction if only we manage well. My experience is I don't suffer from my inability to manage well. I suffer from the delusion that I need to. A sponsor once, I can't remember if I used this or mentioned this last week, but a sponsor I had once gave me this analogy that, or this metaphor or something, that me trying to manage well, me trying to make sure I am okay, is like me running around a racetrack, trying to win a race or achieve something while the referee's chasing me with the trophy. True. Or this, I hope this is the right time for this, but he gave me this other one of, it's like, we'll see if this is good or not. It's like I'm having this party and God shows up and I open the door and I'm, hey God, and God says, here, I brought a cake. And I look at the cake and I think, oh, I forgot to make cake. Thank you. And I grab it and I take the cake and dump it into a bowl to try and make a cake. Everything I am pursuing in life to manage well, I already have. It comes from God. And so we'll see how worthwhile that analogy will be as we move forward. But so in the third step, I realize I'm in the bondage of self. Alcohol has been providing relief so far, but alcohol is now backfired. And I can't get away from, I can't stop myself from, I'm obsessed, not even so much with the alcohol. I'm obsessed with relief from the bondage of just being me. And so long as I'm in the bondage of me, I'm going to be obsessed with finding relief. If I go to rehab for 10 years and I leave in the bondage of self, everything I learned in that rehab will be moot. Only because so long as I'm in the bondage of self, I can't help but be obsessed with relief. That's how bondage works. These steps in getting from playing God to God reliance, from self-reliance to God reliance, not only connect me with a power, but they also free me from that bondage that makes me so obsessed with relief. So then we ask ourselves, okay, well, I think that sort of makes sense intellectually, but what do you mean playing God? What is that? And so then we do a fourth step and we see on paper how we play God. And we talked about this a lot the last 2 weeks. And this brings me back to what I was starting with. I've always been so interested in how specific the inventories are. I think it's so, to say, yes, do a fact-finding, fearless and searching moral inventory on these 3 specific things, on your resentments, on your fear, and on your sex inventory. And it's really the sex one that seems so bizarrely specific. And so I've just always been really interested in it. And one of the things that seems to get clearer and clearer as I go through this work is getting on the rocket in the first place is easier than staying on. And the things that most lure me off. So here I am on the rocket as a passenger, and then something doesn't go my way and I need to jump off and go fix it. If something threatens me, if something, I just need to manage well, everything will be fine, and someone says something or does something that threatens my well-being, yes, I am very tempted to jump off and manage it. Another thing that lures me off this rocket is if I see something I want just within reach. And that's where I think the sex inventory comes in. Yes, fear catapults me off the rocket. It catapults me back into self-reliance. Being mad catapults me off the rocket, catapults me into self-reliance because I got to fix it. What's less obvious is when I see something I want and could maybe have if I just play my cards right. It's a sneakier, trickier lure into self-reliance because a lot of times it feels good on the way. And we've been using what feels bad as a barometer. But the stuff in this, if I'm, let me put a pin in that and go back a couple steps here real quick. If, let's say, I have someone in my life who, when they are upset with me, it crushes me. And it's very tempting to go off into self-reliance and try and make sure they're never mad at me. If they're never mad at me, I'll never be crushed. I just got to make sure they're never mad at me. And then when they do get mad at me again, I'm crushed and in resentment. That's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is when someone is proud of me or happy with me or likes me, and that makes me feel good. That those are two sides of the same coin. Pride and fear are two sides of the same coin. So I said that sentence. Now let's get into like the nitty gritty of the inventory. Let me use this as an example. Again, if we think, or I thought that playing God was bad because I wasn't very good at it. Another really relevant thing on the inventory is, what about when you play God and you are good at it and you do get what you want? Is that okay? And yeah, it's all okay. But still, in self-reliance, I am at the mercy of a self that is powerless over alcohol. So it's easy, and please forgive me, I'm going to be a little bit clumsy talking about this clearly, but I do think it's really relevant to talk about, yes, there's the playing God that makes me feel bad. That's kind of obvious. But the playing God that makes me feel good is just as dangerous, because it's still me playing God. In the fourth step on page 68, there's the great line of, we do a fear inventory, we list out what our fears are, and then it says we asked ourselves why we had these fears. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? That's kind of a fancy way of saying, if ever I'm afraid, it's because I'm in self-reliance, which is another way of saying, anytime I'm in self-reliance, I'm going to be prone to fear. That same sponsor that gave me those great images spent a long time working with me or helping me to better understand the danger of pride, even when it's going well. So the second I feel like I'm managing well and things are going my way, and I'm saying the right thing to get the right reaction, and I did pick the right house I'm going to live with, and I really like the people who are there, and I did that right. Oh, and in my interview I did really good, and then I did this, and I talked to my mom and I made it sound really social. Now she's not mad. As soon as I'm successfully managing well, I don't know about you guys, I'm about 60 seconds away from fear. Because as soon as I'm in self-reliance, now I'm the one responsible for making sure everything continues to go well. It's so, think back on all of the stories where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe God brought me here and did this. God is so amazing. Oh my God, I hope I don't fuck it up. I better do this and this and this. You know, it's self-reliance is just sneaky and tricky and addictive and human. And that's why when we're doing this inventory, the more we can get on paper to see what it looks like so that we can recognize it for the rest of time. Not because self-reliance is a crime, but again, because self-reliance means I'm relying on a powerless self to not drink. That's the only reason we're doing this. Not because God reliance is good and self-reliance is bad. Just again, to reiterate over and over again, when I'm in self-reliance, I'm relying on a powerless self. Let me pause and just ask, is this tracking? Because I am, okay, good. I'm saying words I've never said before, and I'm as, okay, good. Okay, so let's just look at the sex inventory real quick, because it's written on the whiteboard, and Harriet brought it up, and here we are. And it's so relevant, not just sex specific, but again, anytime I see a way to get something I think I need, I'm going to jump off the rocket in pursuit of the thing. I mean, the steps again teach me, free me from that. But even now, 13 years later, still, I'm very prone to jump off the rocket as soon as I see that, oh, if I just do this, then I'll get that. Just for 1 second, hold on, Rocket, stay right here. I'm just going to go grab this promotion. Or Rocket, stay right here. I'm just going to go grab this self-esteem from this person I'm flirting with. Just stay right here. So let's look at the sex inventory. And yes, It is on page 69. There are lots of logistic ways to do this. For me, I just did a piece of paper, and starting in the middle of 69, we reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been? And I sort of stayed in the column world, but I just answered the questions on the paper, whether or not it's in a column or in a sentence or in whatever. I don't think it matters that much. Whatever format will get the most insight out of you. That's a little bit why I personally don't love checking boxes, because then I just check the box. For me, it was really effective to use lots of words to get to the insight. So we reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or, this was the big one for me, inconsiderate? So what I did is I just went relationship by relationship. There are a lot of opinions on, again, who's eligible for the sex inventory. Is it just people that I've had sex with or been sexual in any way with? Is it, some people see this as a harms list, so whether sex was involved or not. Again, I don't have an opinion on that. I'll just tell you the way I did it is that I included every single person or group of people, this is going to sound overwhelming, but that I ever even flirted with, which was every person I'd ever met my whole life. So it took a minute, and I only remembered the names of like 10% of them. I didn't even like learn the names of most of them. So like I had to group it like the men of Mexico. You know, I had to just, again, it wasn't about doing the actual worksheet perfectly. It really was about getting the insight out, getting the awareness out. So this is now certainly going to be too much information, and yet here we are. So here's what I learned. Where had I been selfish? When I came into AA, I talked about this a little last week. When I came into AA, the autobiography I would have shared with you was, I get myself in a lot of pickles. I find myself having to hook up with or pretend to like a lot of people. I end up in really long-term relationships with people I don't love, but that's just because of how selfless I am. I don't want to hurt them, so I stay. That's the story I told. That's the story I believed. I really felt almost like, if I do this sex inventory, you're going to be shocked at how hurt I've been. Okay, so there's a twist. I was shocked. In doing my inventory, where had I been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? I found out with every single person on the list, the reason everyone I had ever interacted with in my whole life was on this list was because I did not know how to interact with you without finding out how you felt about me. My self-esteem was in the hands of every stranger, even strangers across the room I wasn't talking to. I needed to know, did they notice me? Because of how insecure I was, not because of how like all that I was, really, obviously. So I flirted. That's the only thing I knew how to do. I flirted with you, whether you were a man or a woman. Keep in mind, I'm gay, so most of the people on my inventory were men. So that's weird. I flirted with every single stranger, whether they were a man or a woman, whether they were 100 years old or not, whether they were married or not, because that was irrelevant. I didn't have any plans to follow up on it. I just needed the information. Do you think that I'm good and pretty, or you don't? What do I need to do to convince you that I'm good and pretty, even for a second? So that's number one. Where was I selfish? I actually, didn't know this, used every single human on the planet for my self-esteem. Where was I dishonest? I didn't mean it. I flirted with everyone on the planet and had no intention of following up on it. Didn't mean it, didn't stand by it. I just made whatever sound I needed to make to find out from you where my self-esteem was. Dishonest. Inconsiderate, I didn't consider at all. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I just didn't consider them at all. I didn't consider how this might affect your marriage. I didn't consider how this might affect the wife that's sitting right next to you. I didn't consider how it might affect the fiance sitting next to me. I was too focused on making sure that my esteem was intact. There was no room to consider other people. Also, in part, I kind of assumed that all people were fine. I was the one that was like, kind of like fucked up. I just assumed that you were fine either way. Okay, so that's how I was selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate. Who got hurt? I'll tell you whether this counts or not. I got hurt a lot because I found myself in a lot of situations I did not want to be in. Who else got hurt? The person I was with got hurt because they were led to believe that I liked them. And 100% of the time, they had to find out in some very uncomfortable way that I didn't. Their spouse that they either had or didn't have got hurt. Their children that they had or didn't have got hurt. The friends I'd gone out with whose entire night now had to be spent looking for me, they got hurt. I mean, there's just no end to the list of the people that got hurt. And all of it, I thought was me. Again, when I came into AA, the story I would have told you is, I'm just nice to everybody. I just am so nice to everybody. Yeah, it gets me in some jams because people are shits, but I'm really not. You know, that's the story I would have told. So the sex inventory for me was truly a revelation. I had never had a relationship with a person. I had only had transactions. And I would do whatever I needed to do to get from you your end of the transaction, which was to fill up my self-esteem, which in turn affected my ambition and my personal relations and my security. All of those things got enmeshed in that. But my primary instinct that drove most of my behavior was my self-esteem. So I went chasing again. So imagine me, I'm chasing my self-esteem in all of these people with this referee chasing me with the trophy I already had. So you can see how that would maybe make some mess. Again, the mess isn't the problem. It's just a side effect, a symptom. For the rest of these steps, again, we're going to talk about our defects. And that's what's coming up in these inventories. I'm seeing my defects on paper, that I lie to find out if you think I'm cute. That's like a defect. But again, what we mean by defect is that's a thing about me that doesn't work. It's not a defect because it's unlikable or wrong or bad. It's a defect in the sense of the word defective, a defect. That is a tool I use that doesn't work. In all of my chasing self-esteem from all the people on the planet, I never got to a place where I was like, oh, I guess I'm great. The end. Search over. It was like with alcohol. Every bottle's bottomless. There's no point where I actually achieve what I set out to achieve or won what I set out to win. No matter how much self-esteem it seemed like you were helping me to achieve, I left just as empty of self-esteem as I came, as was evidenced by the fact that I immediately went next door to a new person, a new self-esteem source, and then a new one and a new one. It wasn't me being bad. That's what self-reliance looks like for me. If it had worked, then I would be saying, so just make sure you chase it in the right person. But my self-esteem isn't in any person. So there's more. There's like even harder things to look at in the sex inventory that I didn't like, but was revolutionary. Because again, remember the story I would have told you is, I think I'm just too nice. I give people the wrong idea. No. Okay, let's say that maybe that is true, but let's look at the next line. Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? For whatever it's worth, I have had conversations with sponsees. Like, there are times when someone around me has felt jealous. I didn't arouse it. I mean, I'm not responsible for everyone's feelings, but did I unjustifiably arouse jealousy, bitterness, suspicion. So I would flirt with people in front of my girlfriend so that she could see how attractive I was to other people. Do you know what I mean? I was just trying to like show her how lucky she was. But that, as you can imagine, was very hurtful. That I unjustifiably aroused jealousy, bitterness, suspicion. That was not my intention. My intention was to arouse love in all sorts of ways. Anytime I was late and not texting back, and there's so many ways we arouse jealousy, bitterness, and suspicion. And so it's, I don't know, maybe you can make a fun game out of it, to see again how that manifests or has manifested in your relationships. The big reveal, though, for me was as nice as I was, again, the nicest of all the people. Other people would even say so. Again, I wasn't a mean person. But if we were in a relationship, you were going to be feeling nonstop jealousy, bitterness, and suspicion, all as backfires to my plan to get you to love me more. It's kind of like, the harder I try to not drink, the faster alcohol ends up in my mouth. It's so weird. The harder I try to feel good about myself, the worse I end up feeling about myself. The harder I try to manage how you feel, the worse you end up feeling. Again, not because I'm bad, because I'm using defective tools. And again, this inventory is just me seeing on paper what defective tools no longer serve me. Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? It's interesting. I've had a few different sponsors and a bunch of different sponsees. And in the 13 years I've been doing this, I've met thousands, I feel like, of alcoholics who each one of their sex inventories and their sane, sound sex ideals are all like snowflakes. Everyone is different. And so again, whatever God does through you or reveals through you, I think is right on. I will tell you that in terms of what should I have done instead in all of those, 100% of those interactions I was with, I wish I had known where my self-esteem came from. Because all that was happening is I was chasing it in the wrong bottles. I was chasing it in the wrong, I was looking for it in the wrong spots. Knowing now that my self-esteem comes from God, I am now able to interact and have a relationship with you that isn't transactional. I actually can get to know you without needing you to be any which way. It's hard to get to know someone if you need them to turn out to be something specific. It's even harder to love someone if you need them to be something specific. That's the definition of conditional love, and usually even the definition of manipulation. One of the great gifts of this program is that in doing these steps, after doing this inventory, there are more steps that now teach me how to remember and act accordingly to the fundamental truth that my self-esteem comes from God. That said, now you are free to be whoever you are, because there's nothing you could say or do to threaten my self-esteem. It's not in your hands. There's nothing you could do to make or break my security, because it's not in your hands. That means you can be whoever you are. I won't be disappointed. You're free. I'm free to love you. You're free to be you. And that's amazing, because people are extraordinary, and I had no idea. I was too focused on whether or not they were going to serve the purpose I needed them to serve. But that sort of brings me sort of full circle, quarter circle, whatever, back to that idea of, that's why if I have someone on my inventory I'm mad at because they're threatening my self-esteem, that's just as dangerous as if I have someone I'm really happy with because they fulfill my self-esteem. That's just as dangerous. The second I've successfully gotten my self-esteem from you, I am seconds away from you botching it. I'm seconds away from you doing something to violate it. I will always be afraid, because what if you stop acting right? So now I got to like manage that and make sure that you never drop the ball. And that's just a hard thing. It's a hard habit to break. But again, the steps teach us how to do that. And that's essentially what we're going to be doing in 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's literally what we're doing in 6, 7, 8, and 9. In this spot, are there any questions or add-ons or builds or something in the world of this sex inventory specifically, but even in the world of self-reliance? Okay, so for whatever it's worth, it says, in this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? Everyone I know, especially like in the beginning, becomes a little neurotic about how do I know if it's selfish or not? Like, if it feels good, is it selfish? Like, if I'm happy, then am I selfish? How do I know? My first response to that would be stay in the moment. It's again one of the harder things we do, but there's such thing as selfish relationships, and then there's such thing as just selfish moments within a relationship. And the more my experience is, the more sincere I am in wanting to know and wanting to do as I think God would have me do, I'm safe and in the clear. But this is where working with a sponsor becomes really, really helpful, because we have for a lifetime become masters of self-delusion. And so I really need an outside perspective. Feeling good is not an indicator that I've done something wrong, though the world has taught me that. Getting something I want isn't inherently wrong. So it really takes practice in being able to, I don't know, talk to a sponsor. That's maybe not like the greatest answer, but it's too subjective, and if always, forever and always, going back to what we learned in the 4th step, if you're angry, then probably you were selfish at some point. That's kind of the rule. If you're afraid, you're in self-reliance. Those are pretty good barometers. And probably after this meeting, I'm suddenly going to have an epiphany and remember a better answer to that question, but I'll write it down and bring it next week. Just know that it's normal to become neurotic about it, at least at first. Okay, we ask God to mold our ideals and help us live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loved. So to be clear, especially if anyone's new hearing this, none of this is about whether or not sex is good or bad or right or wrong, or sex in and of itself isn't selfish. Sexual relationships aren't inherently selfish. I am inherently afraid. And so when it came to sex, I used it as a way to get things I thought I needed to survive. And again, for whatever it's worth, the sex inventory for me was the most revolutionary thing for me, because it was around sex where I was the most self-deluded. I mean, really, really alarmingly self-deluded. Okay, a big piece of the puzzle that I just read is this line: we asked God, and then finish the sentence however you want. It's those words, though, we asked God. It's very, very human and normal and instinctual to try and create this perfect sex ideal, this perfect version of me, this God-reliant version of me, and never once ask God for help along the way. This entire program is here, 12 steps to God. And the easiest thing to forget about that is the God part. I need God. This isn't what's bad about me. This is just true. I need God to help me see things clearly. I need God to help me call my sponsor. I need God to help me be willing to see the truth. I need to be changed by God, not I need to change myself to please God. And that was another old idea I brought to this. For whatever it's worth, the main thing I'm getting at is something I say a lot, because it's something I see a lot, which is it's so easy to take all of these steps to God, but in an entirely self-reliant way, to think I'm doing this to earn God, rather than I'm being gifted with access to a God that will help every step of the way, that wants to help every step of the way. And I keep leaving God out because I want God to see how good I am at making a sane and sound sex ideal. I want God to see how good I am at doing right. And I want God to see how good I am at calling my sponsor when I don't want to. No, all along the way, I need God's help. Rephrase that. All along the way, I get God's help. And that's a really, really, really crucial part of the way from the beginning all the way through the rest of time. Every scrape I get into is when I'm trying to show God how good I am at something. Every step, and virtuously. As we get to a close in these last 9 minutes, again, I'm suffering from the bondage of self. That's why I'm obsessed with alcohol, because it provides a sense of relief, a sense of ease and comfort. And whether or not I know better, it's not going to work. I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to die. I get it. But my bondage of self is so painful that I will cross that bridge when I get to it. I just have to take a sip right now. That's how alcohol is for me. That's how doomed I am to drink when I'm in the bondage of self. Again, these steps are designed to free me from the bondage of self. Freed from the bondage of self, I am also freed from the desire to drink. Freed from a migraine, I don't think about Tylenol. And I don't take credit for that. That's just what it's like to not have a headache. Sobriety, it's just what it's like to not be in the bondage of self, to not be dying for a drink. That said, all of these steps, because they're designed to free me of the bondage of self, the sooner I can bring God in, the sooner I start getting relief from the bondage of self. The sooner I can become more interested in what God is doing and less interested in, am I doing this right? The sooner I'll be freed from the bondage of self. The sooner I can see my mistakes because I'm going to see on paper a lot of mistakes in the fourth step. For some of us, it's really hard to look at. The sooner I can look at that paper and see it as an opportunity for God to really do something miraculous, rather than looking at it with like shame. Again, because the name of this game is, in every single moment, God is. No matter how big a mess I just made, God is. So the sooner I can learn to be more interested in the wonder of God and less interested in like the shame or wonder of me. Again, not that starts before the 11th step. The bringing God in starts immediate. So that's just sort of a plug I want to reiterate over and over and over again, because it's such human nature to want to be the one to do things right. Self-reliance is so ingrained in us. I couldn't wait for my sponsor to see how long my fourth step was and how like thorough I was, as if my sponsor being proud meant anything. Self-reliance is a hard thing to get free of. Okay, that's all I meant to say about that. So when we do this sex inventory and we create our sane and sound sex ideal, it's very easy to skip the line that says we asked God to mold our ideal. In all of these steps, my first time through, I really accidentally skipped those parts. I was so eager to just do it right myself. I don't know if that's making sense or if it's relevant to you, but God is available and to be leveraged in all of these moments. That's, I guess, another way I could say it. For example, God, I'm beating a dead horse. But for example, if a sponsee calls me and says, how do I know if this is selfish or not? And I say, well, have you asked God? They haven't. I feel like we don't feel like we can talk to God until we do right. If along the way, no, because along the way, all of us are bound to get confused or unsure or not know at any given moment. And the sooner we can build into our muscle memory, ask God, the better. Okay. Well, I thought that I was going to get to 8 and 9. But again, there's so many Saturdays. So we have plenty of time. Yeah, let me just, again, take it to the group, especially the women in the house. Are there any questions around any of this?
I have one, and it's just about what you said, which is just so perfect for me today. But you said it so beautifully, and I wrote down what you said, but could you expand a little bit more of when we're relying on, you said we're being gifted at God each step. And I'm kind of in that place where, yeah, like, wow. And then all of a sudden we get into self-reliance. Well, if I just keep doing this, if I keep doing my meditation, if I keep making sure I love this person, and then all of a sudden I'm back and I'm having that revelation that that's self-reliance. Could you just expand on that a little bit?
Totally. And that's really especially common, I think, in 10 and 11, but all the way through. I think it is very normal for us. Like, I had a friend who I'm still like best friends with to this day. And for the first 10 years of her sobriety, she followed the letter of the step. I mean, she did everything perfectly. Every night, nightly review, every day, did it to the letter perfectly. And one time she was saying something like, what should we do? I don't know what we should do. And I said, I don't know, maybe let's ask God. And she was like, what? She had done all of the steps. She had followed all of the directions, except every single time bypassed the God part. Because again, that delusion that will wrest satisfaction if we manage well. I will be okay if my columns are perfectly straight. I will be okay if my sponsor says I did a good job. I will be okay if I do 90 meetings in 90 days. I will be okay if I do every single thing that I'm told. And we completely miss the whole gift of this program, which is that A, I'm already okay because of God, and B, the punchline of every step, the punchline of the steps, the punchline of every moment is, oh my God, look at what God did. But I keep shifting back to, oh wait, look what I did. It's not bad, it's just not necessary, and it's suffocating. Because as soon as I say, look what I did, now I'm afraid, but what if I screw it up? Oh, but actually, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. Oh, but she's probably mad. Oh, the solution to our problem, which is the bondage of self, is God. The solution to our drinking is God. The solution to my fear is God. And it's always the last thing I go to because I feel like it's so important for me to get it right myself. Tiffany, I don't know if that's so much what you're getting at, but especially as we continue to get time, because we have moments in sobriety where we're kind of on fire, and I'm praying and meditating every morning, and I'm doing it so good, and I feel amazing. And then this day comes where I just don't feel like doing it. Or something comes up and I have to push it back an hour. And then I spend the whole day like waiting for lightning to strike because I didn't do it. And then the next day comes and then I don't do it again. And then the next thing I know, 6 months has gone by and I haven't prayed or meditated. And the only thing I can think and feel is shame and worry, as opposed to asking God for help. Like, the whole point of prayer and meditation is to get God's help. And it's the whole point, and I miss it almost every time because I'm so obsessed with thinking that I need to be doing this right. All this program is teaching me how to do is to look for and look at God with wonder. And if I get anytime I'm looking at me with like shame or regret, I'm looking away from God. And things like guilt and shame and regret are tools of self-reliance that I think will get me to act right, but they don't. They just make me guilty and shameful. So again, that's another really good example of how those aren't inherently bad things, but they are defective. Guilt and shame don't work. Beating myself up never gets me to act right. So that was a lot of different words. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all again. Here we are at the end of the hour. Let me just look at the closing here. Thank you all for joining me today On page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. You will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
We hope you've enjoyed this From the Vault re-release of the Magdalen House podcast. Tune in every first and third Wednesday for a new release from one of our 3 podcast series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services we offer, visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on your favorite social media channels by searching for the Magdalen House.